Hey guys, this is Daniel, and today we will finally load some tunes onto the car and see what we can do with the custom tune. Now, if you haven't seen my other video yet about what you need to get tuned, go ahead and watch it first. That will explain to you everything that we need to have to actually get a tune done. But we're gonna go ahead and jump right in, so let's take a look. So the very first thing that we're going to do here is, if you haven't already done so, make a stock read of your TCM, a stock read of your PCM, and a stock read of both of them combined. In my case, I found a tuner, he's doing both for me. So instead of having to send him a transmission control file and a power control file every single time, he can have them both combined into one. Now, if you're only tuning the engine or if you're only tuning the transmission, just send the one file. Don't bother sending both of them if he's only gonna attack the one. So let's jump right into the software, and we're going to load our VCM editor. So now that we're here, the editor will actually not allow you to do much unless you have the MPVI2 or even the original one, the MPVI. So all we have to do, I don't even have to connect this to the car yet. So all I have to do is plug it into my USB port, and it's gonna start reading the file from HP Tuner server. That just tells them that you bought the credits, you're good to edit this vehicle. Now at this point, I can do changes, I can do edits. All I have to do after it's done, just connect this to the car and upload the file. So we're going to go in here, and you will see how many files I actually have. So I have old tunes, a whole bunch of revisions. Here's my final tune that actually works. This is on 93 octane gas. It is the best version, and you can see the revision 7 worked best for me. Here more tunes where we're working on ethanol tunes. Now, if you have an ethanol capable car, you want to get ethanol tuned. So my E85 tune isn't done yet, but my 93 octane tune is rock solid, so I could take this anywhere, 5 hours through the desert, and I know it will work. So now that this tune is loaded, all we have to do now is plug it in, and I will show you the process of how to upload it. So what we're going to do is we're going to write my revision 7, which is my best 93 octane tune, and we're gonna apply this to the car. So now here, if you happen to have only one module in the file, only one of these would show up. In my case, I have both of them, and even here I can still say, okay, do not write the transmission. In this case, we want to write to the transmission. Now, it goes without saying, make sure your battery's full. If you have concerns that your battery may be weak, put a trickle charger on. So we're gonna turn off the ignition, wait 10 seconds and turn it back on. All right, so we just fired the ignition back up. Now we're gonna hit OK, and here we go. It's gonna wait another 15 seconds just for safety. While this is writing, I found this guy, he came highly recommended, and he's amazing to work with. What's important for me is that this is still a daily driver. I want it to shift nice. I want it to have a lot of torque. I don't really care about the horsepower number. Mario, who is doing the tune for me, did a great job in giving me exactly what I wanted. I told him, I want this and this and this and that, and he tuned the car directly to it. So as I'm driving and as I'm feeling things are not quite the way I like it to be, I just write him back in the email with the log that, hey, listen, the car is shifting too high or it's not shifting low enough. As an example, when I put my car into sport mode, I didn't feel really much of a difference. Yeah, the traction control came off, but I could have just clicked the traction control button and take it off. The way Mario has it tuned, the moment I put it in sport mode, the shifting is really aggressive. I almost feel like I'm in a sports car, but if I leave it in drive, which 99% of the driving will be in my drive gear, it feels so nice, so smooth, and I got a lot of torque. And when I step on the gas, because we have those 9-speed transmissions that love to shift back and forth, I can keep it longer in the same gear and still have the torque take care of it. And because I drive a lot, this is how I want it to feel. So he catered my tune to exactly how I want it. So if I give you my tune, for example, you may hate it because that's not your driving style, but this is something that you have to discuss with your tuner. Again, I'm not tuning just for maximum horsepower and maximum quarter mile time, but my daily drivability is what was important to me. So here we go. Now that we're done, we can go for a test drive. So in this log file, you see all the parameters that are important to my tuner. So stock, it comes with a lot of information already on there that you might want to look into. But if you get to a professional tuner, he really knows what he's looking for, and he changed my chart to look for what's important. Now, my screen, when I'm driving, I have it on the passenger seat, and I like to look at this. So it's configured to my taste. This is what I want to see, because at a glance, I want to know where stuff is. So here you have even more modules that are open that give you a ton of information. So your logs then, when a tuner gets it, can be replayed, and he can see what's going on. Now your tuner is probably going to look at this, which that's what's important for him. In my case, this is what I want to see, and what I have here, I have the limits of how far it reached. Here's my alcohol percentage, and this screen can be modified to exactly your taste. I like to look at it because with my tuner, sometimes I'm able to directly work with him while I'm driving. If you have a hotspot connection through your cell phone, he can even log into your car while you're driving, and he can give you instruction. Okay, open it up, hold it at 3000 RPM, shift, whatever the instructions are, and then he can make tunes on the fly. And what I did is I pull up to the gas station, load the new tune that he sent me, pop it back in, and go for another test drive. So now that you're out on the road and test driving a car, your tuner will give you specific instructions. My first tune consisted of a couple of pulls to 65 miles an hour. So find a safe road, go to the racetrack, do it in a very safe environment. There's roads out there where you just can open it up, and there's roads like, you know, I wouldn't do any logging during rush hour. Now here's a few pulls in sport mode, and again the tune is different in sport mode. There's tons of different shift patterns that he can modify, or you can modify if you feel brave enough. And again, my car feels completely different in sport mode, and this is why we're doing runs in regular drive mode as well as in sport mode. And you can see here how even when I get off the gas, it holds the RPMs high, so the car is ready for me to step back on and just go. Now let me load a log file that has ethanol in it. Now this is the moment I filled up ethanol, so there's a mixture between whatever is left in regular gas and ethanol. So what you will see here is my ethanol percentage right here. I called it booze. Is still at 0, but as the car keeps going, your sensor will start to recognize that there is more and more ethanol in it, and your tune will actually change based on your ethanol content. So we're here in Central Florida, and we have for most of the year real 85% ethanol. If you live somewhere up north, most of your year may be a mixture, maybe as low as 50% of ethanol. So you can tune directly to what you want to do. Now here's what you got to be careful about. If you tune for 85% ethanol, your car may knock if the ethanol is lower. So if you live somewhere up north and you just want to load one ethanol program on it, tune for what your lowest program is. So let's say 50%. I will include a link to a list that will show you which part of the country has different ethanol contents. So here you can see, as I'm driving, the computer actually recognizes that the ethanol percentage is changing. So let's forward a little bit. Now, because I still had, my reserve light was on, I drove for a few miles, and then I filled in 4 or 5 gallons of ethanol. So I have 85% ethanol and a gallon or 2 of regular gas. So I'm about 56%, so this is nothing I can tune on. So on my first run on the track, I already had cycled through that half ethanol, half regular gas, and my gauge is now at 85%. I went to the track several times. I got a whole bunch of sheets that of my runs that I did. Now, if I was gonna tune it for my own benefit, I maybe would have gone to the track once or twice. I think I went a total of 5 or 6 times now, but because I want to see the process and something to show you guys. Plus it's fun, I mean, how can it not be? But let's get down to the numbers. So my first stock run on regular gas, I ran a 15.15 seconds on a quarter mile. Now, that is a pretty bad time. When you look at the tests when the cars came out brand new, the Chrysler 200, Road and Track, for example, tested it at 5.7 seconds from a 0 to 60 and a 14.76 on a quarter mile, I believe. I could never reach those numbers. We're here pretty much at sea level, but the humidity is just crazy. One thing that I noticed when I'm driving out there normal, day-to-day driving, and I step on the gas, it feels great. It just opens up. When I go to the racetrack, it doesn't feel as strong as it would do on the road. So one thing I've noticed is my intake air temperature rises like crazy. Imagine this. You're at the track, you're doing 2 or 3 runs, and now you're sitting at the line and waiting, and your car just heats up. So I see my intake air temperature 150, 160, 170 degrees. Of course, it's 95 degrees outside, so my intake air temperature is going to be a lot higher. As soon as I take off, by the time I shift into second or third, the temperature drops down to 95 or 100 degrees, which is great, but then the race is almost already over. So the numbers that I have here is not a good representation, I believe, for my car. I will rerun another run in the winter when it's 60 degrees out here, and we'll see if it's going to be any better, and I guarantee you, I'm willing to bet money that my times are going to be better. So take this with a grain of salt, but I got a 15.15 second stock. Some guys online, they're doing 14.7 stock. So I just believe that my intake and the upgrade that I've done on my intake were to my disadvantage, and we will fix it later on. So then I ran a stock run on ethanol. Now, anybody who has an ethanol capable vehicle probably noticed an increase in responsiveness, power, and just drivability. So my car, at its best, ran a 14.662 at 100 miles an hour stock just on ethanol. Now, that is a half a second difference from 87 octane to ethanol, just stock tune. After a few tunes, and I was not even revision 7, but I think it was revision 4 or 5, I was already running a 14.36. So, I don't have any times yet on ethanol because we're still tuning it, but I guarantee you I'll be 13.99 or faster on ethanol when we're done. Now, if you've never been to the track, go do it. It's so much fun. I'm actually taking my son to the track with his own car, and it will be a blast. So stay tuned for that. I will throw some videos on Facebook so you kind of see the 1-minute videos. They're gonna live over there versus here. I'm really excited with this tune. I really want to thank Mario out there. Brian, shout out to you. It's been a great influence. Tyler has been helping as well. And we've been going through all those little quirks, and we're actually figuring out how much potential this engine has. So if you don't have a 200 and you have a Challenger or a Charger with a V6 motor, go out there, get a tune. With no other modifications than just a tune, you unlock a complete different driving experience. And I just absolutely love it. So let me show you what's going on with the intake. So this is what I believe leads to high intake air temperatures. I loved it when I installed it. It removed the stock air box, which muffles the sound of this car, and this car has an excellent sound, and I believe when you drive it does feel better. However, at the track, this heats up so much that the air temperature where the sensor is back here spikes. So when I get off the line, I believe I'm leaving time on the table. And because I think that's my culprit, I got the Mober cold air intake. So this is gonna be my next video. Now, if that helps, I'm pretty sure if you have one of those RPM Motorsport torque tubes, if you wrap it into that exhaust wrap, that may actually fix the problem as well, but there's only one way to find out. So until next time, I'll see you around.